We all remember Keanu Neal for his vicious hits, but today you're also going to learn why he offered so much more as a legendary Atlanta Falcon.
You are Locked On Falcons, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, everyone, to another illustrious episode of the Locked On Falcons podcast, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So, guys, if you don't know me, I'm your very humble host, Aaron Freeman. Been covering the Falcons for practically a lifetime, formerly at falcfans.com, RIP, still going strong on this illustrious podcast. You may also know me as Mr. Drew, a.k.a. Sirius Black, a.k.a. the Jolly Green Giant, a.k.a. the Iron that Sharpens the Iron, a.k.a. Mr. a.k.a. And, of course, I appreciate each and every one of you that is an everydayer of this pod that makes it your first listen, your first watch each and every day. All you got to do to become an everydayer and be appreciated like so many is subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. So today's episode is another Falcons Historian Player Shootout, our summer-long trivia tournament where two contestants go head-to-head answering trivia questions about a Falcons legend from the past 20 years. And tonight's legend is, of course, Keanu Neal, the hard-hitting and very underrated Falcon safety from 2016 to 2020. And the two contestants are also Atlanta sports legends themselves. Brad Rowland, the host of Locked On Hawks, going up against Myles Garrett, who covers Atlanta sports for Fox 5 Atlanta. And of course, tagging along will be my co-host Allen Strk, who covers the Falcons for the Falcoholic. And we'll both be asking Brad and Myles 5 questions, each on Keanu Neal. And whoever gets the most correct moves on to the next round of this Falcons Historian Player Shootout. So without further ado, let's jump right into Falcons Historian Player Shootout on Keanu Neal right now. My friends, welcome to the show. Alan, how you doing today?
Please don't ask me how I'm doing as a very suffering Croatia at the moment. I'm not going to vent about soccer because I don't think anyone here cares about soccer, but I am very much in pain right now. But nevertheless, Aaron, I got to give you props for knowing NBA draft prospects because you have not watched basketball since Tim Duncan was playing. So kudos to you for doing research on draft prospects.
Hey, look, it took 15 seconds to Google the top two prospects, and that's all I know. So there you go.
But anyway, Myles, Brad, welcome. Thanks for coming on. I know this is for listeners, Keanu Neal just made the list. I know people think Falcons legends, really Keanu Neal, but you know what? When you think about 2016, 2017, this is the last time period where the Falcons were legitimate contenders, had winning seasons. They were beating credible teams. Like Keanu Neal was at the nucleus of it. When you look at that defense, he was the enforcer. So I just felt like it was time for us to give him his props. And he's just someone who I think always left an lasting impact on the field. Like I know we remember the Deion Jones from there. We remember Vic Beasley's 2016 season, but I think Keanu Neal always brought consistency. So Myles, how do you remember Keanu Neal, especially particularly from that 2016, 2017 era?
Well, I remember him specifically because I interned for Fox 5 back then in 2017. And that was the first time I got to see NFL players up close. And you can even ask my boss this because I remember the first time he took me out to Falcons training camp. I remember seeing Keanu Neal. He was like the first player I saw. And I was just baffled by how big his arms were. I'm like, this dude was huge. I mean, like he looked like he was a linebacker. I mean, I guess he ended up playing a little bit of linebacker, go figure. But just a dude who did not look like a defensive back. But after seeing him in person like that, I was like, okay, all these big hits make a lot more sense now after seeing him in person. He's just a scary dude, very nice guy, but just as from a physical standpoint, very scary looking guy.
Brad, what were your lasting memories of Keanu Neal from that time?
I wish I had a firsthand story like Myles did. That was much better than what I have to offer in this space. But no, I was always very partial to Keanu Neal. You kind of all talked about it in some way, like that enforcer type. Obviously some of the hits that I can kind of still see in my mind right now that made the rounds when he was playing. Like it didn't last that long, but it was a shining star when it was there. Part of the best team in Falcons history, probably. I mean, you have to say that's kind of consensus thought, you would think, and a key part of that team. It's kind of broad on purpose, but I wish it had lasted longer. The back-to-back injuries really kind of hurt things, of course, with regard to him sticking around and then eventually following DQ out the door and all those things. But I was a big fan in the moment, and I think that while he barely made the cut, as you guys alluded to, I think he earned it narrowly over the competition.
All right, that's the validation we need, Brad.
Well, here's what I'll say about Keanu Neal, and anybody who knows me knows that I was a huge. He's like on my personal Mount Rushmore of favorite players over the last decade of the Atlanta Falcons. So if anybody wants to take shots at why is Keanu Neal, blame me, just because Allen suggested it, and I automatically ran with it because I'm like, of course, Keanu Neal deserves his flowers, and I think as you guys mentioned, like. He's known for being that enforcer type. When people think about Keanu Neal, they think about him as this, physical football player, either sort of embodying that fast and physical mentality that Dan Quinn had. But I think the thing that's very underrated about Keanu Neal was how versatile he was. And that for those years, he was kind of I called him the sort of X factor for the defense, because when it came to, we need someone to shadow Alvin Kamara, we need someone to shadow this top tight end, it was often Keanu Neal that was getting that assignment. And I remember a game in 2017, unfortunately, where the Falcons lost this game to the Buffalo Bills, led by Tyrod Taylor. And early in that game, and no shade to Deion Jones, but they had Deion Jones spying Tyrod Taylor, and he was struggling in that role. And Tyrod was really gashing them with some of his runs on third downs that were extending some drives in that game and allowing Buffalo to control the clock and keep the Falcons offense on the sideline. And then they made an adjustment sometime around halftime, and they were like, okay, Keanu, you're going to be the Tyrod Taylor spy. And Tyrod, never got a first down after that point in the game. And I just think that's an aspect of Keanu Neal that's very underrated. I remember some very promising games for him when he was locking down, future Hall of Fame caliber tight ends like Rob Gronkowski and Greg Olsen throughout those years. And I just think he's a player that, unfortunately, as Brad mentioned, 2 years of injuries kind of derailed what was a very promising career for Keanu Neal. But I think a very special player when he was healthy, and unfortunately, injuries and bad luck just kind of derailed what could have been, an all-time type of tenure in Atlanta, if you ask me.
Well said. Miles, was there a particular moment that stood out to you for Keanu Neal that made you realize, okay, this person is different, like he is someone who the defense could be built around? Or was it more just his longevity of play throughout the 2016-2017 seasons?
I mean, it's just the big hits that come to mind for me. The hit on Willie Snead, the hit on Mike Evans. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember those hits specifically, but I know those two are immediately ones that come to mind, especially the Willie Snead one, probably just because it was the Saints and it caused a fumble, a turnover, whereas I think the Mike Evans one was that Super Bowl run. I think it was like a Thursday night game or something, sideline catch Mike Evans made. But I mean, those were always the two big things that stood out to me from him, was just the hard hits. Because you're right, like you were saying, he was sort of that enforcer of sorts for those Falcons defenses in that 2016, 2017 era.
How about you, Brad?
Yeah, the Willie Snead one comes to mind for sure. The other one that I think people don't remember maybe as much was this great tackling on Jimmy Graham at the goal line. You remember this? Remember that play he made on Jimmy Graham to basically save a touchdown, and just an absolute stonewall of it was maybe a little bit later for Jimmy Graham, but still a big time athlete tight end. And he just went backwards. There was no give whatsoever, and that was kind of the epitome of the Keanu Neal experience, just walling off someone who was bigger than he was.
I think that's come back to me. It was 2016, that Seattle game that they narrowly lost, right. Kind of a controversial loss. I don't know. Aaron, do you remember who had that PI? That everyone thought was a PI against Julio? Oh, we're going deep right now.
Oh, come on, Aaron.
No, I remember Richard Sherman was on the coverage, but I don't think he broke up the pass.
Okay. I remember it was so – because that Seattle game, that was one of the moments where you thought, okay, this 2016 Falcons team could really go somewhere, because they went to Seattle and they were kind of going drive for drive against them. They punt. I mean, the first half they showed, but that second half, it was kind of that lasting moment. It was just ooh, okay, this team might be different this time. But that's a great moment. I want to mention from that 2016 season, even though they lost to the Eagles because for whatever reason, the Falcons could never win Philly, but there was a screen pass. I forgot who the running back was, but I'll never forget Jason Peters was approaching Keanu Neal. This was 2016 Jason Peters. Jason Peters was still maybe not in his prime, but he was still playing at a high level. And Keanu Neal was on one knee as Jason Peters was about to close him down. He does this spin move and gets past Keanu Neal, gets past Jason Peters turns around and then punches the ball out, one of his forced fumbles. And it was just, I think Philly ended up recovering the fumble, but just the fact that a player like Jason Pierce, who just erases safeties or defensive backs in general out of plays, Keanu Neal just spun his way out of it, avoided a mammoth athletic human freak of nature, Jason Pierce, and just smashed on a screen and prevented a big play. It was just one of those moments. Now, this is a true film chunky moment. I'm getting excited just remembering watching the All-22, but it was just one of those moments where it's like, okay, Keanu Neal, he's someone that has range too, because I think when the Falcons drafted him, people were wondering, okay, he's obviously have his impressive highlight reel, but does he truly have the range? Does he have the speed? Does he have the instincts to play his position at a high level? And I just think he made such a quick impression. Even though he missed the early stages of 2016, right away, he was just someone like, okay, once again, you're trying to build through the three levels of that defense, and he was someone who established himself rather quickly. Was there a play for you, Aaron, that stood out? I know you talked about Tyrod Taylor, which was cool from my memory, but was there a particular play?
Yeah, well, you had to dig deep for that Eagles play, because I don't remember a lot of positive plays from that game.
True film nerd moment. And as you remember, Kyle Shanahan always struggles against, I think, Vic Fangio style defenses. So
yeah. I remember Jason Peters just like road grading dudes all day that game. So the fact that somebody avoided that for one snap is certainly a positive thing.
That might have been Courtney Upshaw.
I think I'm trying to think. Is there one specific play? I mean, obviously the hits are sort of the things that I think about with Keanu Neal. I know for other Falcon fans, and I've argued with them over the years, a lot of folks, when they think of Keanu Neal, they think of the non-interception in the playoff game against Philadelphia. And I always chastise Falcon fans. I'm like, you can choose a different play to remember you. You can choose, that hit, the many number of bone-jarring, earth-shattering hits that he had that are the sort of defining play for Keanu Neal. So those are the ones that I tend to choose. Probably that Mike Evans one is probably the go-to one. Excellent catch by Mike Evans, by the way. One-handed grab on that play. Better catch than the hit was, but still, like, to just line him up and just go straight through him, I think is one of the defining hits of Keanu Neal's career.
But I just want to say thank you, Miles and Brett, for not bringing up the Keanu Neal interception, because we recorded the Devontae Freeman episode a few weeks ago, and the missed Super Bowl block came up at least 4 times. And it's just like, look, we love Devontae Freeman. We don't need to bring this up all the time.
I know better than to do that. I had it in my head, and then I thought Aaron's going to be so mad if I mention this right now that I'm not going to do it. So I was right, at least, about that.
Yeah. There you go. So anything we want to add before we get into the question and answer portion of today's Falcons Historian Player Shootout?
I'm in deep trouble, I think. But other than that, no, we're good.
How you feel, Miles?
I mean, cautiously positive here, but I know Brad knows his stuff, so we'll see.
Okay. So, Alan, I already forgot what you told me before we aired, but Brad is coming up next, right?
Yes, that is correct, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I will be asking Brad questions coming up as we continue today's Locked On Falcons Historian Player Shootout. Passion, drive, patience, it is the formula for winning championship. Isn't it also what keeps your ride or die alive? eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. And they definitely, I can speak to that because I just ordered some new seatbelt covers. The strap on my seatbelt was fraying a little bit, it's old car. So I figured, hey, let's get me a new seatbelt covers from eBay Motors. And the thing I love about eBay is, they have the eBay guaranteed fit, which is your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. And whether you're looking for seatbelt covers, superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash, baby. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guarantee fit only available to U.S. customers. And guys, before we get back to the Falcons Historian Player Shootout, I do want to plug the Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you each and every day to bring you the biggest stories, can't miss analysis, opinions, news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. And of course, if you're looking for more local flavor, especially with Brad Rowland in the building, This big week for the Atlanta Hawks. Check out Locked On Sports Atlanta's 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube and the free Amazon Fire TV channels apps. It's part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, Brad, my friend, are you ready?
As ready as I could possibly be, Aaron.
I'm gonna apologize in advance, Brad. If my questions are hard, I got chastised for 2 easy questions last time, so you're gonna have to pay the price.
Oh no, I'm definitely in trouble. All right, here we go.
So
Keanu Neal and Aaron asking hard questions. I'm gonna be over.
So if you feel unfairly maligned at the end of this episode, blame it on. It's still my fault, but it's just we got to find the pendulum swing.
I got you.
Like too soft, too hard. We got to find that Goldilocks zone, and so whoever I get next time will benefit from that. But we'll see. But our first question: Keanu Neal blasted this Seahawks tight end at the goal line to prevent him scoring on a Monday night game in 2017.
Jimmy Graham.
That is correct.
Jimmy Graham. I got one.
Yep. That to be honest, that was the signature play, but I didn't want to give it away beforehand.
At least it was my signature play to give away. It wasn't like I stole it from somebody else that we talked about earlier. I'm the one that brought it up, so I would have got it anyway. I promise you, I would have got it anyway.
That is an excellent point.
There you go. Number 2, Keanu Neal knocked this Saints receiver out of the game on a jarring hit in a season finale in 2016.
Willie Snead. As Miles rolls his eyes, but I swear to you, I would have got that one too.
I promise you, I think this will get tougher.
I would hope
so. It will get tougher.
Those two I had. We're good on those two.
All right. Number 3, in 2015, Keanu Neal served as the starting free safety for the Florida Gators secondary that featured 5 future NFL players. Besides Neal, 2 of those players wound up suiting up for the Atlanta Falcons in the future. Name one of them.
Lord. Oh, man. I should definitely get this, and I was not prepared with Florida DB questions. I'm looking to the ceiling, so I'm not cheating. Why can I not think of a single person's name on the Florida defense in 20? This is not Janoris Jenkins. That's not right.
Is that your final answer?
Yes, I don't have an anscer beyond that.
I would love to know what year Janoris Jenkins got drafted, because I feel like it was years ago.
It was before that. I know it's wrong.
The 2 possible answers you could have had were Brian Poole and Tease Tabor.
I should have known Brian Poole. That's a disaster by me, but that's okay.
For those curious of the other ones, it was Vernon Hargreaves, Quincy Wilson, and Marcus May.
Bum bum ba bum bum. You're gonna have the sound effects. All right.
Number 4. Keanu Neal's 8 pass breakups during his rookie season is the most of any Falcons rookie safety since 1999. He surpassed this former second-round pick who set the benchmark with 6 pass breakups in 2003. Who was that 2003 Falcon safety?
2003.
Dark year.
Yeah. I should know that because I actually had season tickets that year. And not, I think I want that out of my mind. Once I watched too much Doug Johnson and Kurt Kittner that year to remember anything else that happened. Oh man, I don't know. I should know it. I don't. So pass. Wow. Incorrect. Sounder. Go ahead.
Brian Scott.
Okay, I should have known that. That's all right.
Yeah. Obscure Falcons second round pick.
Too much basketball recently for me. I'll blame it on that. Here we go.
All right, number 5. Keanu Neal's second career interception in Atlanta came versus the Kansas City Chiefs while he was covering Patrick Mahomes on a trick play downfield. Which Chiefs receiver threw that pass? Who threw that ball?
Was that in 2020? I think it must have been in 2020.
26. Yeah, 2020. I'm sorry.
Because that was after he came back. I could actually see the play. Who threw the ball? Tyreek Hill. I don't know. Tyreek Hill.
It's a good guess. The correct answer was Sammy Watkins.
Okay, that's regional effect. Clemson's own Sammy Watkins. All right, that was a disaster. But hey, I got 2 right. I didn't go for 5.
So 2 is a promising show.
I'm gonna lose. It's okay.
Don't say that yet. You got 2 freebies there at the beginning.
That's the only reason why I got them.
2 keeps you in range. I always say if you get 2 or 3, it keeps you in range.
You're alive. You're alive with 2. Like I'm not mathematically eliminated with 2.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take that.
If you get 0 or 1, you might as well just throw the towel.
I understand.
But with Brad getting 2 correct, we'll see how many Miles gets. And Allen will be asking him his Keanu Neal questions as we wrap up today's Locked On Falcons Historian Player Shootout. So, Allen, you have the floor. Hit up Miles.
All right, Miles, first question. Which year did Keanu Neal make the Pro Bowl?
2017.
That's correct.
Oh no, that was way too fast. I'm in trouble. Here we go.
Question 2. Which Pac-12 star linebacker did most Falcon fans want to see be taken over Neal in the 2016 draft?
Oh God, what Pac-12 linebacker?
Yeah, star linebacker, pretty popular name. I don't know how in the weeds you were with Falcons Twitter at this time, but he was talked about literally for a whole month.
Oh man, I'm assuming no hints on this one.
Pac-12.
Pac-12 the only hint. Oh man, 2016. Oh God, Pac-12 linebacker. Thinking USC, Oregon, maybe UCLA. I got nothing.
Miles Jack.
Miles Jack.
Do you remember that at all?
Wow.
Yeah, that one I remember that vividly. That was a war. That was a war on Twitter back then.
Dang.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was very upset when they took Keanu Neal because I was like,
I was upset too. I didn't like the pick at the time. It was.
He fell like 20 more spots. Where did Miles Jack end up going in the 30s somewhere? He fell.
Yeah,
definitely, right?
Yeah, second round.
Yeah.
There was hell that night, but that was like the start of okay. Dan Quinn, Thomas, Demetra are taking second round projected players in the first round. That was like the start of it.
Yeah.
But, all right, third question. Which quarterback did Neal's first career interception come against in a pivotal win during the 2017 season?
Cam
The
Newton.
quarterback. There you go. Didn't even need any more help. Here we go.
Yeah.
He didn't have many interceptions, so I remembered those.
That was the playoff clinching win. Question 4. Keanu Neal forced 2 fumbles against this NFC opponent during the 27 season. Name the opponent.
Oh God! Repeat the question, please.
So Keanu Neal forced 2 fumbles against this NFC opponent during his 2017 season. You just got to name the team.
Oh no. The Saints.
Close, but Panthers.
Ah, darn. Okay.
Well, I'm still alive, baby.
All right, final question. Always going sudden death. What happened, Aaron?
I was just gonna say, add a little flair to it. I think it was Jonathan Stewart he forced those fumbles against, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think that was the last remains of Jonathan Stewart back in 2017.
I had nothing there. Yeah.
Final question. There was one safety selected ahead of Neal in the 2016 draft. Can you name the safety?
Carl Joseph.
Boom. Well done.
All right.
Sorry, Brad.
Hey, you were certainly the right winner in this contest. Based on this entire exchange, I think the right person won.
Were you guys high on Carl Joseph? I know he was a big draft.
I actually did like Carl Joseph.
I love Carl Joseph. Yeah, he was
like him.
He was my guy too.
So that was one of the times where everyone agreed on the Raiders' first round picks.
Yeah,
so
right.
That doesn't happen often.
The last time, yeah.
Never happens.
It didn't work out for them, as pretty much every Raiders first round pick has happened. I don't even remember the last time they had a good first round pick.
God, their 2018 to 2021 run is like Hall of Fame level bad.
Yeah.
I really like Mike Mayock, the analyst Mike Mayock.
I thought he was going to be so good too.
that was a good caveat. The analyst version of Mike Mayock, not the GM.
He brought analysis. He brought charisma. He made you feel good listening to somebody talk about football. And then he went to the front office, and we don't have to repeat the names, but yeah, like the Raiders made the playoffs that season in spite of him. You remember that year. But well done, Miles. This was one of the more difficult players, so you definitely delivered. And Brad, hey, you still held your own.
That's a generous reading by you, Allen. I appreciate that. I will hold on to the fact that I did win a round the last time I was on this, and the last shootout I did, however many couple years ago that was. I did win a round during that. I did not go over on that one. So I'll accept it, and congratulations to Miles.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Miles, if it makes you feel better, so you're moving on to the next round. You're going to face Corey Woodruff, and the player that you'll be quizzed on will be John Abraham.
Ooh, okay. Wait, who's my opponent?
Corey Woodruff, who is a contributor to the Falcon.
Oh, Corey, yeah. Uh-huh.
Natural sweetheart. I always say he's probably the nicest human being on
Very
Falcons
tough
Twitter.
opponent. Yeah, I actually spoke to one of his classes one time via Zoom.
Wow. All right. We got an awesome episode ahead of us, Aaron. We're going to have a nice reunion. We're going to talk about, I feel like John Abraham, if he's not top 5, top 10 most beloved Falcons, because as you know,
every year that the Falcons pass rush doesn't work, he gets even more beloved.
I almost made that joke a minute ago. I swear to you, I was about to say, well, he's the only defensive end anybody likes in Falcons history, at least recently. So there you go.
It's crazy. It's
Hey,
crazy.
man, I think some people like Adrian Claiborne out here.
Hey, he still has a single game record.
He does have the record. That is accurate.
Every passing year, Adrian Claiborne becomes more beloved than Miles.
That's true.
Iowa
That's
legend.
also true.
All right, fellas. Before we go, definitely want both of you to plug everything you got going on. I know, Brad, it's a busy time period for you, so let the people know what's going on.
Yeah, if people happen to be listening to this that also enjoy the Atlanta Hawks, I do that podcast. As Aaron said at the very top of this, I host Locked On Hawks. That's the main thing. But I also write about the general NBA, college basketball, WNBA, draft, all that stuff at Dime on Up Rocks. So that's the two best things. Plus, if you're a Braves fan, I'm also one of the co-hosts of Hammer Territory, which is formerly the SB Nation podcast. We got fired, and then we had to move on to – fired's not the right word. I'm actually kidding. But they closed the podcast network at SB Nation, and we moved on to Foul Territory, so we are called Hammer Territory. Lots of stuff there, but hopefully you can find all of that. And I am at BT Rowland if you are still on Twitter, as some people are.
How about you, Miles? What's going on with you?
Well, there you go. Yeah, I'm actually covering the Hawks in Brooklyn this week, but if you want Hawks coverage, make sure – oh, I guess it's this way. No, that way. Yeah, follow Brad. Brad's got the best Hawks stuff. I work for Fox 5, so anyone who watches – cable still tune into Fox 5. We have a great sports team over there. We're very active on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it today, posting all of our stories, videos, etc. That's where I post most of my work. That's where you can find my stuff. Miles Garrett TV.
There you go. I was gonna make a Cleveland Browns defensive end joke at Miles, but
no, you gotta do it once. I mean, it's like a once a show thing now.
I figure you've heard them all, so nothing I was gonna say is gonna be new or interesting. So,
Yeah, at this point, how many times do you have to fake laugh about it? Because obviously it gets kind of dull after a while, right?
Oh, it was fun. I went on a trip to Pittsburgh 2 weeks ago, and 4 times. Like I went and picked up a pizza, and they're like, "Who's the order for?" I'm like, "Garrett." And they're like, "You're Miles?" And like the whole kitchen's like, like you gonna hit us with the helmet? I'm like, "Thanks. Can I have the pizza?"
At this point, you just gotta take it in stride. But I do hope you get to Cleveland at some point. I feel like if you get to Cleveland, you might just get a bunch of free stuff.
Hey, Miles Garrett actually sent me a signed jersey, so I did get some free stuff at the end of it.
I know that whole Mason Rudolph situation was probably pretty epic for you on your
Tough
Twitter.
scene. Yeah.
Bad publicity is still good publicity.
Okay.
See, these are the gems you get during the historian shootout.
Exactly.
That's right.
Well, guys, that is going to do it for us here on today's episode of the Falcons Historian Player Shootout. Alan, tell the people who's next. I forgot.
We have a great player coming up. One of the few defensive players. We have Grady Jarrett coming up. We don't have too many defensive players on this list, but Grady Jarrett, the only player still on the Falcons for this tournament, I should say. And we will have Kevin Knight versus Gina Thomas. Gina Thomas, the only woman representing this tournament. We try to get more women, folks. Don't blast us first. We try to get more women, but Gina is always representing strong, and she'll be up against the reigning champion, Kevin Knight. And we'll be talking all things Grady Jarrett, who everyone loves. How can you not love Grady Jarrett? One of us. True Falcon for life.
So, guys, that's going to do it for us here. Tomorrow we'll have another Falcons Historian Player Shootout. Kevin Knight going up against Gina Thomas on Grady Jarrett, the only current Falcons legend that is part of this exercise. And that will probably be up Wednesday night for you guys on YouTube, probably a little later than usual. Usually we run these things on 7 p.m. On YouTube the night before the audio version of drops. Probably tomorrow night's episode on Grady Jarrett will be probably closer to 9 p.m. Eastern time instead of the usual 7 time. But the audio listeners, you guys will still get it around midnight Eastern time, 9 p.m. West Coast time. Shout out to the West Coasters. That is what's in store for you on tomorrow's episode. I think we'll wrap up the week getting some insight into the Locked On College hosts about some of the Falcons Day 3 picks, like J.D. Bertrand of Notre Dame and Jason McClellan and Zion Logue. And make sure you continue to make Locked On Falcons your first listen. All you got to do is subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure you check out Locked On Sports Today, Locked On Sports Atlanta, and of course, check out Locked On Hawks. It's all part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.